Welcome to the next prep session. Today is not December 5th. You can see on my slide that I forgot to make that update. It's December 12th, and we are prepping for the January 12th and 13th C-CDA Implementation-A-Thon track that's going to be held in conjunction with HL7 FHIR Connect-A-Thon 20 in San Antonio. Today we are going to be, well, I'll tell you, my name is Lisa Nelson, if you haven't heard my voice before. This is it, and I'm going to be working with Jean Duteau and Jaginder Madra to facilitate the 2 days that we have together in San Antonio, supported as always by Dave Hamill. And if you have any questions or any concerns, certainly as we're going through the presentation today or afterwards, keep dhammill@hl7.org as an email address where you can always send a message and Dave can help you out with anything you have a question on. If you haven't registered yet for the FHIR Connect-A-Thon, here's the links for doing that. This PowerPoint is available on the Confluence site. You can download it and get the links from there. All of these are obvious spots off from the hl7.org website. Here's how you get to Confluence and the resource pages that are available with anything that we've got loaded. So everything that you see today, from supporting documents to this PowerPoint presentation itself, is posted in the resource area on the Confluence site for this Implementation-A-Thon space. And we have a Zoom out there on chat.phir.org. It's a stream that's called C-CDA-IAT. That's another place that you can go if you want to have conversations with the rest of the community that's participating. And then we have a couple of spots where we're collecting samples out in the Dropbox, and we're going to have some live documents that we'll use during the Connect-A-Thon that will be Google documents. So this is why we need your email addresses. It helps us get your access all set up to these Dropbox and Google Drives. Final resource I just mentioned, in case you're looking for some inspiration to get you started on your CDA examples, there's a consolidated CDA examples task force search tool that takes you to a spot where you can get numerous different examples of C-CDA template instances, and I just point that out as a place where you can download some XML that might help you get started. We have a full agenda planned for the 2 days. We're going to be talking about a variety of topics. Today, what we're prepping for is Q4 of Saturday. We're going to have a quarter where we look at the issues associated with moving and transforming CDA documents, C-CDA documents specifically, through FHIR APIs. And so for 1 quarter, we're going to give anybody that's come to the FHIR Connect-A-Thon with mostly a C-CDA perspective, this is going to be 1 quarter that will really open your eyes and give you some more experience exploring what it means to share C-CDA documents with FHIR systems with FHIR APIs. We have a lot of other stuff to cover. We've been doing these prep sessions. There's 7 of them in total. We still have one on the 19th and then one on January. I think it's the 9th. But yep, they've all been recorded. Yeah, thanks, Dave. The 9th. They've all been recorded. So if you're just getting started with us today and you missed any of these prior sessions and you want to go back and listen to them, here are the links for the YouTube recordings. And they're all just about an hour apiece. You can get caught up that way. The prep that we started for this C-CDA to FHIR conversion work, we are going to cover how, I wanted to cover today how it's going to work in terms of what participants need to bring to make this work. And I wanted to do a bit of a round to get feedback from folks today. To what extent is it helpful to start out with some sort of very basic educational module about FHIR documents, where I would go over not only well, pretty much I made like a wish list of the key spots within the FHIR documentation where you get a glimpse of what are FHIR documents, what resources are involved, how does the FHIR document paradigm work, that kind of stuff. I'd like to hear from folks today if it would be helpful to allocate some number of minutes to just introducing everybody to FHIR documents with a bit of an educational module. Allison, I don't know if I've seen you out there before. Is this something that you would find helpful or interesting?
Yes, I think it would. My company is starting to do more and more with FHIR, so we're continuing to learn. So any kind of refresh on that one would I think would always be a little bit, helpful to get kind of people on the same page depending on their level of experience with it.
Okay, good. Allison, I'm sorry, Becky?
Yes, I agree. I think it would be helpful.
And Jean?
Oh, I agree. I think that'd be helpful also.
And you guys, like Becky and Jean, are you guys interested in this quarter? Will you be attempting to turn CDA documents into FHIR documents or vice versa?
From my company's perspective, we've had some people talk about it and request it from us. So yeah, I would be interested. I was definitely planning on attending that session.
Great, great. Caller 22, we don't know who that is. Let me see if I can see more names. Get a lot of call-in users. Chris Johnson, is C-CDA-on-FHIR interesting to you?
Yeah, I'm with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Alabama. Really just kind of interested in what it looks like. I'm pretty familiar with C-CDA, pretty familiar with FHIR, but not how to marry the two.
Okay, great. And Crystal, I know you've been working in the direct track before. Will you be coming to this quarter with us?
I may be, but we also have some new people coming too, so I think it would be good to have the educational model too, Lisa. I think that'd be very helpful.
Excellent. Okay. Chris?
Choppy, I would just echo, Crystal and I work together. So yeah, I think we do have some interest in it.
Excellent. And James Grew?
Yes, definitely. And the EHR that I work with in iCare apparently is already doing conversions from C-CDA to FHIR. So the head of the technical team is pretty knowledgeable about that area. I'm kind of the advocate for it, and I don't understand it at all, so it'd be very valuable to me.
Excellent. Thanks. Jim Taylor? Offline. Joe Quinn?
Hey, Lisa, I'm with Nick Radoff, so I'll defer to him when you get to him.
Okay. Matt?
Me, Matt Ron.
Matt Ron. Okay, how about the other Matt? We have lots of Mats. It's the number one name today. Matt S.
Matt Stepankevich. Hey there. Yeah, I'm with Michael and Rachel at Epic, so they might be able to speak to this a little more.
Okay.
We haven't done much with CDA to FHIR that I know of, but again, Michael would be able to speak better to how much of this we plan on working with.
Okay. And Matt, are you going to be with us for will you be one of the EPIC representatives at the CDA track for the 2 days?
Not currently, no.
Okay.
Yes, this is Rachel, also from EPIC with Matt.
Okay.
Michael can't be on the call today, but yeah, I think it's going to either be myself and Michael representing EPIC or one or the two of us. So.
Super. Thanks for the update. And Matthew Dugal.
Hey guys, Matthew Dugal, a developer with Dynamic Health IT. We do a good bit with CDA to FHIR, but I'm not really one of the lead developers on that. So,
okay.
But I'll be attending the Connect-A-Thon, and I'm not sure what track I'll be on either. So.
All right, I'll ask. I have some other questions for you guys in the next slide. So I see Nick.
Hi, yes, this is Nick Radov. We don't really necessarily have any specific plans. I just kind of sitting in here as more of an observer to learn a little bit more about the standard, C-CDA and FHIR in general. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, super. Rachel Johnson.
Yeah. So I think I'd reiterate kind of what Matt said too. We'd be interested in just like a refresher. Don't have a ton on it at this moment, but would like to see what other people are doing with it and thinking about it.
Okay, good. Rochelle, anything else from Dynamic Health IT?
Nope, that's good. We'll follow up later.
Yep. And Robin?
Yeah, I think it would be helpful.
Right, we got a lot of people who I think was going to really benefit from this. Sumant.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
you guys, you're all from
Dynamic,
the Dynamic
yep.
crew. Susan Langford.
Yes, hi. I'm from Blue Cross of Tennessee. Very similar to what Chris Johnson said. We're beginning to do work on CDA and learning about FHIR, and I'm not going to be able to attend the Connect-a-thon, but I did want to start learning the process and what goes on, and any kind of educational material is helpful.
Oh, great. Okay. And Vishak, are you also with Dynamic?
Yes, I'm actually with Dynamic Health IT.
Yeah, I'm starting to get to know your crew by name there. So, all right, super. Well, I'm glad to know that that's going to be helpful. And what I'll do is, even for those of you who can join the prep sessions but won't be coming in January, I'll make sure that whatever educational materials we put together for this will end up being posted on this Confluence site, so you can keep coming here and using that as a resource to help jumpstart you in this area where you're investigating. The one thing that this ties in, a lot of people have been coming to FHIR Connect-a-thon with a little bit, few people with some interest in CDA. And there is a track that's been running for quite some time around FHIR documents, and we have been doing this for quite some time. So I just wanted to point out that this track exists, and there will be some folks probably over in the other room who will be working on FHIR documents and CDA documents, going to FHIR documents in this track. There's some good information. I'm going to tie it all together. So this is, I think of it as like a taste test of what's been going on in FHIR Connect-a-thon, and an opportunity to get some folks who are newer to the subject caught back up with the folks who've been doing this for a few years. We want to discuss the use of U.S. core profiles and available mapping guidance. All right, so this is really important, especially if your company has already started down this path and you're doing some conversions. It's important to note that for interoperability, there is a community, a large community that's thinking about this already. And one of the things that we're trying to do to make sure that we stay aligned on these core data elements for interoperability, the USCDI, and what was previously called Common Clinical Data Set, is to make sure that when it comes down to these most fundamental entry templates and entry representations, that we stay aligned around the work that's been done in the U.S. core profiles so that we're not reinventing the wheel. And so I think that I'd like to plan, we have a whole quarter devoted to USCDI, but this would be another place I think that we would spend some time looking at the U.S. core profiles. Here's a link for how to get out there and find that implementation guide, and look at the 12 or 14 resources or so that have already been profiled that give you good alignment to entries that are used in C-CDA documents. So this is work that's been out there for a while. There's new work that people may not be as familiar with. And these two files I put on Confluence. Let me just show everybody where that is. Let's see if I can get back to Confluence quick enough. So in Confluence, the area we go to is this Implementation-A-Thons space, and this is where everything about from registration, the track agenda, the preparation sessions, all of this is available right here on this Confluence site. And under the January 12th to 13th space, this is, did I do that right? Right here. Sorry, this is where under the Implementation-A-Thon, there's this resources page. And that's where I've been sticking these background documents. And the two that I wanted to make you aware of today, one is called CDA to FHIR mappings. This is work that was done last summer under a project that was sponsored by HL7 to create a community level map to get people started. The work was fairly successful, and we are building upon that now with a new project that's running actually as a project within the SOA group as a cross-paradigm C-CDA to C-CDA-on-FHIR map. And this is an early, this is advancing on a weekly basis, but I wanted to make you aware of it. That's what that guide looks like. I'm going to show it to you because I think when you see what we're doing, you'll get pretty excited about what it means, especially if you're further along in your own mapping progress. We've invented a spreadsheet formula. The earlier work was done in a much more technical language, and it was prohibitive for many subject matter experts to easily contribute information because people just couldn't read the syntax very well. So with this effort, we've flattened it all out into a spreadsheet that you can go through and look at, and we basically took all of the U.S. realm header elements and we're putting them into a sheet that we map from a structural element to a structural element. And if there is a value set binding on the CDA side, we note what that is. And if there is a binding on the FHIR side, we note what that value set is. So while we have not yet taken on the granular comparison of does this value set really line up very well with this value set, we'll get there eventually. And the important thing is that we are making really good progress on the structural alignment between concepts that you could pick up in a CDA document and structures that will map into the C-CDA-on-FHIR US realm header profile. Eventually, when we get done, the header is huge, so we've been working in there for about 2 or 3 weeks, just making sure that we have all of this the spreadsheet set up correctly. It has some other columns where we're getting into some mapping rules where there isn't a nice smooth one-to-one correspondence. You'll see some rule information start to be generated here. And this is just all about the gymnastics and complexity that you might have to deal with when doing those mappings. Eventually, these mappings will extend into, these are more detailed mappings that get into things that hang off from the header, but eventually this will extend into entries as well, and I'll show you from the earlier work that we did that these preliminary mappings, which don't take the US core profiles into consideration. It's just sort of C-CDA to base FHIR resources. So the next mapping will be much better because there are extensions and there are other things that have been done with the C-CDA-on-FHIR profiles that we want everyone to be aligned on taking advantage of. So the new mappings are going to be a little bit better, but at least to get you started, you can see that we went through most of the entries that are needed for a CCD document types and discharge summary document types. And there's a tab pretty much on sort of an entry. Well, you could think of this on a section by section basis, because inside some sections where a section supports multiple entry types, there will be multiple maps. So for example, this tab that says medication activity, the medications section has medication activity, and it has medication supply, and it has medication dispense, and it has Drug Monitor Act. So each of these tabs gives you a sense of, at least at a high level, what FHIR resource are we mapping to and where are their correspondences structurally. So that kind of information is all the background stuff that folks who are getting involved in this space really need in order to make sure that we get some consistent mappings going on and start to have a community of consensus around what we will, what goes where when you're moving it from CDA to FHIR. Determine level of interest and expectations for participants. We did that round already. I appreciate all the feedback that you guys have. I'm super excited that to hear that there are so many folks, especially coming from the payer space and all the work that we're doing in Da Vinci on e-health records exchange. I think this is going to tie together nicely for those of you who are thinking about how do you leverage work that's already been done with consolidated CDA and at the same time begin to take advantage of FHIR APIs that are allowing us to move data around a little bit more easily. Review expectation for all documents to be posted before January 9th. So in this space, the ask is not so much to create specific CDA document samples to begin with. I really leave that up to the participants. And if you are observing or, not in a less sophisticated role in terms of being able to create and generate CDA documents, we will have so many samples by Saturday afternoon that you don't have to worry. You can experience this quarter by utilizing CDA documents that have already been posted for some of the earlier quarters' work. The important thing is to work towards having a mechanism that would allow you to make use of this transformation. And what I want to talk about here, I'm not going to do too much on the educational materials. This is just like what I'm drawing from to walk you guys through and do that early introduction part. This is what I have in mind for how to create a robust experience for a variety of users at different levels. So one possibility is to handle this yourself. There's quite a lot of resources, and this is why I think it's good to get everybody on the same page to begin with. But in FHIR, a document comes together in lots of different resources. Composition being the main resource that holds your sort of structured body and header information, but where the record target is encoded in the header, the author is encoded in the header, the custodian organization in the header. All of those become external references to a composition. And in order to create a composition, you need to almost like reverse walk a tree. You have to make sure that the record target is already a patient out there and posted with an ID associated with that resource, so that you have the URL link that you need in order to reference that record target, that patient as a record target. Same with author, same with custodian, and same with lots of the other resources that have to be out there. So if you look right now, I want to show you the track, Connect-A-Thon 20. If you go to the FHIR Connect-A-Thon 20 track, many people who have been working in this space up until now, it's just called Documents. Sarah Gaunt from Lantana leads this track. And if you look at, let me see if I can make that bigger for you. if you look at the basic script or scenarios that they follow right here, you see the steps is, number one, you're going to create a composition resource. Number two, you're going to ensure that the subject, author, custodian, all of those other references that you need to point to exist. And it says you can create them yourself or you can get them from other tracks, query for what's available. Ultimately, you can kind of use resources that are already there and then just link your composition resource to them. Post this composition to the FHIR server, and then check the operation to see that it came out successfully. And one of the ways, you can just retrieve the individual resources, but one of the things you can do to check your operation is you can call an operation that's called $document that many, well, not many, but some FHIR sandboxes are supporting. And there will be at least 2 that I know of that will be at the Connect-A-Thon that already do have support for $document. And what $document allows you to do is to retrieve the composition with this $document operation, and it automatically bundles up all of the subordinate resources and gives you back the document bundle that in essence should hold the same information as the C-CDA document that you are working from as your model. So that's the main exercise, would be to sort of start with a C-CDA document and just do it yourself, make a FHIR document that corresponds to it. It's a pretty educational thing to attempt to do. On the far other end of the spectrum, I would like to offer an opportunity for folks to experience this without having all the detailed knowledge and comfort, being able to do that heavy lift of creating all those resources and linking them together yourself. And so on the far other end of the spectrum, I'm calling it the full service option. I am going to bring a direct enabled transport transformer tool with me that will allow you to, with an interface that seems like email, as easy as email. It's a direct secure messaging environment, and you will be able to post a CDA document. So take a CDA document, you're familiar with the content that's in it, and now attach it to a message and send it to one of those FHIR endpoints that's enabled to receive and transform for you, and you will get back a message that handles the posting and gives you all of the links out to the various resources. I wonder if I have one of those that I could quickly show you what it looks like. I'm doing some background testing to get everything ready for doing this, and I can't recall if I did it from this account or from another account. Probably not. I can't do it on the fly, but I will have it all laid out for you for that day. There'll be a set of tasks that I just do to get you set up on a test account that will be fully enabled, and then you can have the fun of playing with that and see what it's like to get a message that comes back and it has all of the resources that got posted, and you can click on them and see for yourself how the FHIR document comes together. If you have been exploring with your own system, you may have some transformations that you're already doing with your product. So one of the things that you may want to do, just to flesh out and to kind of close the loop on this, why it's so important to have the mapping available for our community, is you may want to take a look at what your application is doing in terms of transforming versus what another application is doing in terms of transforming, to flesh out certain problems. And I'll use an example because I know that Dynamic Health IT has been making some good progress in this area. And at last Connect-A-Thon, Rochelle and I started debating about whether the results section should be populating a list of result observations, or whether the results section should be populating a diagnostic report resource. And we got to the bottom of it, and we have some mappings now that will say that we did land on the mapping of the results section to diagnostic report resource. But you can see that until the community comes to a consensus about some of those possibilities, we could different implementers can be doing different things, and it's going to wreak havoc for interoperability. So if you're further along, there's some options where you can, just use what's built into your application already and be experimenting with how that works versus maybe how some of these other processes are working, and really help us get into more of the comparison of what different apps are doing, different approaches that are being taken, and how does that stand up against the mappings that are starting to be produced, so that we can all ultimately get to a place where as this technology, as this capability comes into play, that we avoid the chaos of everybody doing it different, and we get more started on the same page. So that's what this track is going to be all about. Who has questions or considerations? Anything else that we should try to take on in the quarter where we focus on this? Open it up to you guys to give me input now. Rochelle, anything? You guys are far along, and I know you've been participating for some time on this. Any hopes or expectations that you had for this quarter that you'd like to see us additionally cover?
I think this is really good to take what we have here and then to take that back to the actual C-CDA track, C-CDA-on-FHIR track, to make more progress there, because you end up dead in the water if you're not interoperable. So this class is going to be very helpful, I think, for anybody that's starting down this road. I think a good introduction for the first time and to see what others are doing is putting us in the right place. And then, carrying it over to the track for FHIR is going to be important too for those that are already implementing this.
Great. And I'm hoping, there's so many dirty little details. This document, this dollar document operation is amazing, and yet it doesn't quite work right yet. And if there's two people that know that, because there's only two people that are playing with it right now, we don't get a lot of focus on getting things fixed. But if more people have the experience of seeing, I've got a CDA document and I've got a section that has an organizer, and then the organizer has got entries in it, and I put all of those parts and pieces out into a FHIR API, and when I retrieve the FHIR document, it stops at the organizer, because dollar document doesn't go deeper to continue to recursively collect component pieces. And there's a fear that the recursion will just go on forever. And so in order to constrain that, they stopped at a higher level. And this is an area where if we really want to have lossless conversion back and forth, it's something that has to be dealt with. But we need more people to come up to speed and to get at the same level of the conversation where you've experienced this problem also, and there are 10 or 15 voices all saying, dollar document needs to work a little differently than it does. That's one of the things that we're hoping to do with enlarging the community of interest in this area. Payers, a lot of payers on the call today. We're so happy to have you here. Given the things that you're thinking about with Da Vinci and some of the possibilities that you're exploring with using CDA documents to get clinical information for other uses, anything special on your mind that you'd like to delve into as we explore this area?
This is Chris again. We have some tools that we're playing with that may do some of this, so I think it's still exploratory in terms of the effort to do it, and really got that far as to which exact document we would chase.
Okay. Have you been bumping into one of the things, a decision that I just sort of made, because we only have one quarter, and this is a lot of content, you know, to get into 90 minutes to begin with. But I drew a imaginary line around composition and the resources that are deeper. How do you really just build the FHIR document? And I'm not taking this quarter right now into the document reference resource, and how do you handle unstructured documents? How would you create document references? So if you want to have sort of an indexable set of documents, how do you use document reference to do that? I kind of threw document reference off the bus for this quarter, and I definitely think that if we could get more people up to speed with composition, then maybe for the next C-CDA implementation-a-thon, we could bite off document reference. But I wanted to check and make sure nobody was going to be disappointed if we didn't cover that in this quarter as well. This is
Chris again. I wouldn't be disappointed. That's a lot to cover in 90 minutes. But
Yeah.
you might just do a handout, you know, just a page or two with that much. And if we wanted to do it later in the evening or take it back with us and play with us and play with it and be ready the next time, that might be a compromise.
Okay. All right, good. What I'll do is when we talk about the educational materials, where we talk about the whole FHIR documents paradigm, there will be information that gives you that larger context for understanding additional resources like document reference and document manifest, and how they fit in for both structured documents and unstructured documents. So you'll get an introduction and a context, I think, that you'll have, but then we'll stay focused on this hands-on nuts and bolts of just how do you build a FHIR document and how does that relate to CDA documents. Okay. I think that's everything that I needed to cover. There's not really a lot of prep that you need to be doing for this, and there's no special documents that you need to create or anything like that. So I think we'll be okay. I usually give you just a quick preview of what's coming for our next session. Wednesday, December 19th is our focus on US CDI. I put this last in the prep sessions because I had my fingers crossed that maybe we would see something coming out of ONC in time to talk about it a bit with the prep session. I don't think that that's going to happen, but you just never know. What we will do, if we don't have anything more to look at, is we will start our prep session next time by going over and making sure everybody has a good grounding in what is the US CDI. As far as we understand it right now, you know, the draft information that we had back in the summer, we have a pretty good understanding of where we are with that. And there's a good summary presentation that Brett and I developed in August that is a bit of a ranking of kind of the maturity of where we are for each of the data classes that's been defined, and we'll get a little bit of feedback on areas where this group of people think, yeah, results, right, we've been doing them for a really long time, everybody's doing results, but we're all doing something a little bit different. So even though it seems like a core data element that we've got down pat, what's the real truth about how do we make improvement in terms of our consistency and all implementers doing something in a more similar way to make progress on interoperability and to deal with some of the challenges we have when we're trying to, for example, you know, if you have interests in closing care gaps and you need to be able to process these C-CDA documents to figure out if certain tests have been given and maybe what the result was, so that you can know if it was normal or not, or if it was a battery on some depression screening questionnaire, that you know consistently how would I pull out the total score to know what I think what it is called, like PHQ or something like that test. So I think that the US CDI is all about taking an incremental approach to improving our interoperability and getting everyone to focus in a similar set of areas, so that those are the spots that we make progress on at the same time. And I'm hoping that this group can come to a decision and help to prioritize that, because there's something like 21 core data elements in the US CDI draft right now, and there's no way that we can dig deeply into all of them. But if as a group we can agree that the one or two places where we would really like to come out of the Implementation-A-Thon with some significant progress, where we know right now everybody's not doing it the same, and we would like to see over the coming 6 months or so, maybe between Implementation-A-Thons, that we can make progress on more EHRs having the same understanding and doing things the same way, to prioritize that. And then the quarter that we have, we will do a little bit of that overview, but in the quarter that we have, we'll dig in on whatever we pick to be the priority. So for next week, I think I have loaded that draft document out on Confluence already. Let's see if I put it there. I haven't, but I will do that right after. I'm going to post the draft US CDI, and I'll post the presentation that Brett and I did summarizing where we think we're at with each of the data classes. So take a look at those in the coming week, and maybe talk internally within your own shop and with people that you get feedback from in your product management areas, or just gather your own thoughts and experience on that, and come with a notion of what is a priority to focus on, so that we can pick among the 21 different US CDI data classes, so that I can pick out some examples, and we can initiate discussions during that quarter that will help us in a couple of specific areas. I will mention that one of the areas in US CDI is called data provenance. We talked about it last week. It was not a high turnout for people, but we are preparing to have a pretty significant, we're hoping it will be a significant discussion in Q2 on Sunday to mature our thoughts about and our understanding, kind of the definition and what do we think are the data elements, the structural spots within consolidated CDA where data provenance is expressed. So this is one of the core data elements in US CDI, and we know that's a biggie. So we've devoted a whole quarter to talking about that. And we also have devoted a quarter in here when we talk about encounter summary documents and patient summary documents. This quarter also covers clinical notes and the new clinical note templates. So if you have interest in, that's another one of the US CDI data classes. If you're interested in clinical notes templates, look at the information on Saturday, Q1. I believe that, yeah, the presentation, we covered that early, November 21st. So there's a recording you can read, you can listen to out there about that. But if you're interested in clinical notes, that's one of the other emerging or new of the draft US CDI data elements that you might want to check in on. We have that going on, and then that discussion will be during Q1 on Saturday.
Lisa,
so, Yeah.
Can I ask a question? This
Yeah.
is Rochelle. So I had a question proposed early on from our EP providers that we provide the application for. And they're like, what happened to the clinical summary that we did in 2014 edition that was required that everybody started providing? What I'm trying to do is bridge that gap between, because it's no longer required in 2015 edition for ONC certification. But I'm looking to bridge that gap and bring it to the table between, it's an encounter-based measure. It was provided to patients after they checked out. There was a meaningful use measure to go with that. How do we compare clinical summary from 2014 so it's real to people that actually use the document to what Commonwealth is doing, as well as what the encounter-based measures with clinical notes are doing? And that's going to be important for us to be able to bring it back to the people that are actually using these documents to know, this is what the industry is doing and this is the document they're using, aside from certification. But that's what they know. They know what they had to provide for most of our clients.
This is a good question. So have you thought about, to get to the basis of it, would we need to start with the 2014 certification companion guide?
We pretty much just took the data elements and then looked at, I can see the difference with Commonwealth, and because they put stipulations a lot around how much data is provided, for sure. But I wasn't sure, so yes, we started there, and we're welcome to share our findings during that time, but understanding where is it going now? Is it just called something different? Is it, really part of a different IG guide that has morphed and we just don't know the right names for things?
Matt Ron is on the call. Matt, does this ring bells with you?
Are you
want a specific
asking
number, Matt? It's C2.
Yeah.
I mean, it's E2 from 2014 edition.
E2? Yeah,
E1. Which
E1.
is clinical summaries for
DDT,
ambulatory
right?
only. C-CD.
Not off the top of my head. If you can follow up with me via email.
I will.
Rochelle.
Sure. It just came up this week, so yeah, I'll definitely follow up with you.
So was this an actual? I think this was a confusing aspect back in 2014. But what document type was the summary that you're talking about?
It's called a clinical summary from ONC, and it was a 1.1 C-CDA.
Yeah.
It had all the data, the common meaningful use data. Well, yeah, it was common MU data sets at that time. All of that was included, but it was a clinical summary specific to that visit, and it had your future scheduled appointments on it, but it didn't have any history on it for the most part for what happened that day. So it was their checkout document. When you left the doctor's office, most of them were handed to them. They were putting it in the patient portal.
What was the clinical document.code? What was clinical document.code for this document type?
I'm not sure. I can send that to you. I can pull it up. I can send you an example of one. Okay.
All right. Let me get this for the notes, Rochelle, just to make sure that and this would be under kind of the notion of US CDI. So let me see how we figure this out. So how does the 2014 CERT document called, what was it called?
Clinical summary.
Relate to a document type? (2015) certification?
Well, it's not in 2015 certification. It's just because all of the measures in 2015 certification have become patient-based. So it kind of stepped away from the whole encounter-based document. So now it seems like we're circling back through HL7 to get an encounter-based clinical note, or the other one that you listed. I don't know the name of it.
Yeah, progress note. So this is okay. So it's less about US CDI and it's more about
the other
the
quarter
encounter
one.
summaries. Yeah, quarter
Mhm.
one.
Exactly.
It's more belongs right in here.
And I mean, they're using these documents. They got EPs are definitely, patients are used to getting the document when they write, so they're going to keep using it. So maybe ONC said they're all using it. We don't really need to keep testing this, but I don't know where it went with 2.1 C-CDA.
Yeah, what sections? Where do you go to get its specification?
1.1.
Well, but there's no, in consolidated CDA release 1.1, there is no document called clinical summary.
Right. So we took the concept of transition of care document and limited the information to what the requirements was for testing for ONC.
Okay. Would this be most similar to a transition of care document?
And it goes in the patient portal, and so what we end up in our patient portal, if you have a 2014 ONC certified patient portal for EP, you end up with a C-CDA that is or CDA that is 1.1 transition of care. You end up with a VDT type of document, which is your patient document, and then you end up with a clinical summary, which is just for that last visit.
Okay, I missed that. Say that again. So in a patient portal, each patient has 3 types of documents. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. In 2014, if you have a 2014 edition certified software, you should have 3 documents: the transition of care. You should have we call it the VDT C-CDA. It's the one that we're required to give to the patient that they should view, download, or transmit.
And that's most similar to a CCD, right?
That's CCD, yes. And then we have the summary of care. Clinical summary, which is a visit level C-CDA.
And is that every time that there's an encounter, you update all 3 of these kind of documents in the portal?
Pretty much, yes. We definitely update the clinical. We always provide a brand new clinical summary.
Mm-hmm.
But because it didn't have to go via direct, it's not, it's a different measure. It's just provided every time, and it goes to the patient portal.
So these 2, I could see, all right, that kind of makes sense together, but why would we be doing that? And you're going to probably say because the regulation said we had to.
They want the patients to have whatever you're sending out and copy of it in their portal.
But are there really different sections in a transition of care document than there would be in either of these other 2 types of documents?
Definitely in clinical summary, but between VDT and a transition of care, you're really just dealing with the reason for referral. It's not in the other document.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, what we'll do, Rochelle, this is probably, it totally belongs in this kind of discussion. These are the kinds of things to straighten out, and I appreciate it. Good to have Matt, Ron, have a heads up about this ahead of time, too.
Hey,
it's almost
an
regulation.
optional criterion, Rachel.
For 2014 edition? For EP, it was, I'm pretty sure it was required for EP, but not for ambulatory, but they didn't do it in the hospital. Yeah, I'm positive.
So, I'm reading the rule that's saying.
I think optional meant it's optional if you're not EH, because everyone that certified for us said that it had to do the E2 measure for the EP side.
So remember, this was, I guess I'm trying to remember, 2014, it's also connected to MU. It's not a separate program yet. 2015, we separated.
Sure.
All right, so Matt, I'll work with you on just sort of having an aspect of what are the regulatory requirements around document generation capabilities, and we'll include that in here.
January should have 2015 implemented.
All right, it is top of the hour, so thank you very much, everybody, for coming. 24 people, that's so awesome, and we can't wait to see you again on December 19th, so I can wish all of you a very happy holidays. Then we'll sneak in one more prep session about US CDI, and then we'll have a nice holiday break, and we'll get together again in January. So if you have any questions, dhamel@hl7.org, and if not, we'll see you next week. Thanks.
Thank you.